Question: should you sign an anti-nuptial contract, or prenup as other people like to refer to it, before or after the marriage ceremony? Before! The answer is before. You should sign your anti-nuptial contract or prenup before your marriage ceremony takes place. And also, when you have signed your anti-nuptial contract, this needs to be filed with the deeds office within 3 months of signing. Okay, only then does it actually count as having an anti-nuptial contract. Okay. Hey guys, my name is Nokuhle, and today I am talking all things anti-nuptial contracts. Other people refer to them as prenups, but this is quite an American term. In South Africa, we refer to them as anti-nuptial contracts. Others will say ANCs, whatever you want to call them. Let's get into it. I am super excited, and if you're watching this and you are about to get engaged or you are engaged, congratulations. I know what an exciting time this is. However, if you are not in this phase in your life, maybe you don't even have a partner or you're already married, I would encourage you to still stick around. Don't switch the channel because you might still find a lot of useful tips in this. I actually wish we spoke a lot more about these things before we started dating realistically, like real mjolo, but you know, it's all good. The fact that you're watching, the fact that I'm talking means, you know, it's the perfect time to be having this conversation.
My name is Nokuhle, and I'm a personal finance creator. Some of the videos I've made include how to buy shares, top 10 affordable cars, how to file your taxes, side hustles, interviews, you name it, I've done it. Note, these videos do not constitute financial advice. My aim is to plant the idea, it's up to you to water it.
Engagement phase is exciting. I'm not gonna lie. However, there are a lot of things that you actually need to do that are so critical and that will play a great foundation for your marriage. So I wanted to talk about this, okay, especially in the African context, because our engagement phase is usually like Lobola, Magadi, Rura, you know, depending on where you're from, and lines can get very blurred because of all these customary proceedings where sometimes people think you're engaged but other people view it as marriage. So the conversation of anti-nuptial contracts becomes very important. So in today's video, we will be looking at 1, the issue. 2, I'll be explaining briefly the 3 types of marriage regimes we have in South Africa. And then 3, I'll be explaining why in-community of property wasn't a big problem in the past. Right. Please remember that these videos are not financial or legal advice. I am just holding this conversation for our community, so do feel free to let me know in the comments what you think as we continue with this video. If you agree with me, let me know, but if you disagree, also let me know, because that's actually what makes us talk a lot more and grow as a community. Much like a lot of professional services in the world, law is viewed as one of those things that is complex, not taught, and a lot of people just ignore and hope that it'll eventually go away, much like tax. And to be quite honest, we view it as expensive. And when it comes to anti-nuptial contracts or prenups, a lot of us might think that this is a tick box function, something you can choose on the day of your actual wedding. So maybe you tell the pastor before that, hey, we want to, you know, do 50-50 or split or whatever, or you tell your home affairs official before they marry you off. But the truth is, for you to actually get an anti-nuptial contract or prenup, you have to have done it before, and this includes consulting a legal professional, come to an agreement where both of you are of sound mind and understand clearly what you want. And then lastly, your anti-nuptial contract must be signed in the presence of a notary and filed with the deeds office before the wedding. Anti-nuptial contracts are just an example of the many contracts that most people overlook. Other contracts include Lobola agreements, domestic worker agreements, non-disclosure agreements, as well as brand ambassador agreements. That brings us to our sponsors for this week. Signed and Sealed Legal Consultancy, an online shop that offers legal templates that you can purchase and download at a click of a button, providing affordable and accessible legal services and education. As part of their offering, they also provide legal services via consultation for your more complex work like your ante-nuptial contracts, succession planning, or making a will, or even drafting letters of demand. So if this is something you're looking into, make sure you visit them on www.signedandsealed.co.za. By the way, they have given us a special discount code for our community. I have left those details in the description box, so make sure you are checking those out. And PS, these are only valid for a short space of time, so if you're watching this, I'd encourage you to hop on right now, okay, because you're not going to get it later. Anyways, let's continue with this video. Random thought, have you guys seen any of those articles about some of the celebrities that were loboloed for like 5,000 rand, and then it was kind of viewed as a marriage even though the lobola hadn't been paid in full, and then, you know, they got a divorce and obviously the celebrity had to pay the person. Anyways, I know this is long and winded, but I always think about how a lobola contract would have helped in these situations, maybe, because at least in the agreement it outlines at what point are we recognizing a marriage, because just paying 5,000 rand, which is like a little deposit, doesn't mean we're married, you know. But also that's why it's so important to actually sign your ante-nuptial contract before all of those things happen, because someone who passed by saw you guys celebrating might think you guys got married. And yeah, I think that's why I also made sure that we had those discussions way before. Anyways, let's continue with the video. Okay, let's talk about the 3 types of marriage regimes in South Africa. So there is in community of property, out of community of property with accrual, and then out of community of property without accrual. I like to view these as if they are on a sliding scale. So it's like this one is we are together, you are me, I am you. The law can view us as one. Whereas here in the middle, the out of community with accrual is like whatever happened before we got married is separate. However, any growth, okay, view accrual as in growth in assets. Any growth in assets we will share together equally, okay. And then here at the very end, out of community of property without accrual, that basically says we love each other, but your money is your money, my money is my money. We are literally separate people in the eyes of the law. There is no sharing should someone, you know, request a divorce. I'm only going to briefly talk about these things, but first off, with in community of property, this is the default marriage type. This is when you have not signed an ante-nuptial contract. So a lot of people, including our parents, are usually married under this marriage regime. Any assets and liabilities are shared equally, and that's when you refer to people as jointly and severally liable. You also need permission from your spouse before you take on any credit. So if you want to buy a new car or you want to buy an investment property, you will always need to have your spouse tagging along and also signing on those contracts, because they are equally liable if you don't pay that credit. And the reason they have to be there when you're getting the asset is because if in the rare circumstance you decide to not pay for your car or not pay your mortgage, the bank or your creditors can actually come after your spouse because they were aware. Next up, we have out of community with accrual. Remember, accrual meaning with growth. Any growth in assets during the marriage will be equally shared. This means any pre-marriage assets or liabilities that you had are not shared. And also no liabilities that you enter within your marriage are shared. Okay, with the first one, any liability you had before you even met the person, you will also be liable for it. So if they open a clothing account back before you even knew they existed, you would still be liable for that under the first regime, the default in community of property. However, out of community of property with accrual, there is no sharing in liabilities. Every man for themselves with liabilities. However, assets, we will definitely share in that. Okay, there are, however, certain exclusions that exist, meaning that some things will not be shared in regardless of what you guys discuss. So the following assets will not be shared in the event that you guys get a divorce. This is 1, inheritances or any legacies or donations that you get, as well as any assets that you buy using proceeds from this. So if your parents leave you a house, your spouse does not have a share in that. And if that house is generating rental income and then you use that income to buy an Uber, that is also not part of the joint estate or the joint pot that you and your husband would have to share, or you and your partner would have to share rather, if you guys got divorced. Secondly, delictual proceeds. This includes road accident fund claims, URAF, or defamation cases or wrongful dismissals. This is not included when you're calculating the joint pot. Companies and trusts. So if one of you or both of you have companies or trusts, these will not be included in the calculation either. However, be careful of just opening a company or a trust just so that you can, put some assets on the side so that they're not counted. This could land you in a lot of trouble, especially because sometimes people do this but not realize that they're actually now doing tax evasion. So be very careful. You actually have to meet all the legal and administrative, things to make it be a real company and a real trust. Lastly, you can actually tailor this contract, so you can add in special clauses for certain things that are not already accounted for but that are sentimental to you. However, these have to be in line with South African laws, which is why it's so important to get legal assistance when you are drafting these up, because if you include something that actually doesn't really go with our laws, your whole contract might be seen as void, and then you thought you had a prenup or an ante-nuptial contract, but actually you guys don't. And the aim for this marriage type was to actually make things fair, whether it's at death or divorce, because sometimes spouses help one another and build one another. So let's say you marry a superstar or an international football player or basketball player, whatever, and you now pause your own career because you're supporting them, you're making sure they're eating the right stuff, you're looking after the kids, and I'm saying this, and I know you're probably thinking of a woman, but there are men who also pause their careers to support women. However, later on your spouse wants a divorce and then you're kind of stuck. You've been out of the economy for the past 12 years because you've been building your house, and now you can't get a job, you're also broke. So this is meant to protect you, because it actually makes you guys join all assets and then split it equally down the middle. So the whole point of this is to make things fair. And then lastly, at the very end, we have out of community without accrual. Basically, every man for himself. You and I are in love. However, when it comes to our money, our assets, our liabilities, there will be no sharing anyway. You will use or you will get benefit from these things as long as we're together. However, when we are apart, you do not get access to those. I do want to say though, with both of the out of community of property marriage types, it's very important for you to have a very strong will in place. The reason for this is because usually nothing is set in stone for your partner, especially with the without accrual one, so the very extreme every man for himself. So if you die but you are still on good terms with your spouse, anyone can have a share in your estate. Anyone can claim. Your aunts, your random uncle that you haven't spoken to in many years can come and say they have a claim in your estate, and your spouse now has to fight for their place, because it's not an automatic thing of, oh, if you died and you're still on good terms, you get everything or you get half. It's not like that. Out of community of property without accrual really does not recognize your spouse. So it is very important that you have a proper will in place, and even if you're in community of property, still have a will. Guys, I'm gonna cover that in a different video. Okay, so I'm gonna run through this quickly. So out of community of property is good for people who are in business. This way you can protect your spouse and your family should your business not do well or go under. Creditors actually can't claim your spouse's assets or hold some of their income, because you guys are still separate in the eyes of the law. Also, some industries like accounting, finance, law, and other executive and leadership roles require good financial standing. So if your spouse doesn't have good money management skills or credit management, you might miss up on a promotion someday, because if you're in community of property, you are viewed as one. So if they are defaulting on their expenses and their loans, and you also can't pay for them, you guys might have to go under debt review as a collective, and that's not good for any company. Because if you're a partner or an executive at that company but you're going through debt review or you've got money issues, you are seen as a threat. You are the weakest link that people can attack, because if someone offers you a small bribe just to look away, you might take it because you are desperate for the money. Also, out of community of property is recommended for people who have children born from previous relationships, just that you can protect their inheritance. However, like I mentioned, it's very important to have a good will drawn up. This way you ensure that your spouse is looked after, but also your children too. Now moving on to the last section of this, which is why income property wasn't a big problem in the past and maybe why it might still work for others. Okay, people earning similar amounts in similar industries with similar or no debt, and also with similar like assets, so either you're both investing and also saving for your retirement at the same level, or you're not. Maybe it might make sense because you guys are basically equal, if that makes sense. Basically, if I have 10, you have 10, we come together, we're 20, but if we split, we're 10 and 10, then it might make sense. However, chances are this is not going to happen. Okay, we're usually not the same age, so some people might have more retirement than others. Also, some people have been saving and investing, and now someone else is going to like benefit from all of that, so unlikely. But in the past, credit applications for like your house or cars were much easier for people back then because banks were more willing to approve because there's two people that they can claim from instead of one. So that's why those marriage types were probably made default. It was just to help people back in the days.
Note, you can still buy a house or car together with your spouse via finance. It becomes a joint application, so you can still use the benefits of in-community property without inheriting your spouse's credit or debt.
Also, remember that back in the days, women didn't really work much, okay? So they were very reliant on their husbands. So maybe this was just the way of the law to protect women should, the man want a divorce or die. However, nowadays this has really changed. Women are able to make a living and they are earning similar to men or sometimes more. So I really do believe that this should be something you actually think about. Don't just go for the default. It's fine if you do your whole assessment and you still land up wanting income property. That is okay. The whole point is that at least you thought about it and made an active decision instead of just falling into a trap of something that was decided for you. So in conclusion, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I hope that this helps. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a video on potential conversation starters, on how you can talk about getting an anti-nuptial contract with your partner. And don't forget to check out signedandsealed.co.za for your legal templates and also for their services if you need something more complex. All right, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I am out. And also, if you have any other questions or comments, drop them below. I know you guys are always going to answer people, so you have a question, let us know. We will be there answering. Okay, bye bye.